If you replaced all the fats you ate with olive oil, could you reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease? I'm Dr. Brett Scher, the medical director at dietdoctor.com, and there was a new trial published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology that seemed to suggest this. But once again, I think there's a disconnect between the conclusions of the study and what the study actually supports and what the media kind of runs with. So I wrote a post about this and it's published at dietdoctor.com. But I wanted to summarize it for you here. So basically, this was an observational trial, like a lot of these trials. It was the Nurses' Health Study and the Health Professional Study, and two different trials where they just collected data over years and years. And the food frequency questionnaires they used was every 4 years. So first, imagine that for quality of data. How much olive oil have you used in the past 4 years? That's the type of question. How much butter have you used in the past 4 years? How much vegetable oil or industrial seed oils have you used in the past 4 years? So right away, okay, we're dealing with a sort of a lower level, a definitely significantly lower level of evidence than science really should have. But okay, for a long-term nutritional study, it's what you sort of have to have. So what they found was those who were in the highest quartile, who ate the most olive oil, had a 14% reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. Okay, I mean, that sounds pretty good. Now, in observational trials, a 14% difference is pretty small and probably doesn't make a huge difference, as we've said before, especially when you look at the cohorts, okay? Because the cohorts, there was definitely healthy user bias in effect. The people who had ate the most olive oil were also more likely to be physically active, less likely to smoke, and more likely to take a multivitamin, which may or may not do anything by itself, but certainly shows an interest and a concern for health. But I have a hard time saying anything bad about olive oil, despite this study not being the most robust. I mean, I love olive oil. I put it on my salads. I put it on my steamed and roasted vegetables. I think it's a wonderful food to use if you want to add more fat and flavor. And in studies like the PREDIMED study, which was a randomized controlled trial, showed that those who ate more olive oil had a slightly lower risk of cardiovascular disease. So it's pretty clear from this observational trial and from the other literature we have that there's no concern with olive oil, right? There's no reason, like some people in the ultra low fat groups who think we need to avoid all fats and all oils would think even olive oil is dangerous. There's no evidence for that. And these types of trials just provide more evidence that olive oil certainly isn't dangerous. And if the authors stopped there, okay, I'd have kind of no problem with the study, but unfortunately, they went further. So here's what they said. In addition, it was estimated that compared with margarine, butter, and mayonnaise and dairy fat, olive oil was associated with lower risk of cardiovascular disease. So they're suggesting that olive oil is a better fat than those because it was associated with a lower risk of cardiovascular disease. Now, unfortunately, I think their bias really shows here because look, they combined margarine, butter, mayonnaise, and dairy fat. And you know what? When you look at butter was not statistically significant. The confidence intervals, statistically it's called the confidence intervals, crossed 1, which means there was no significant difference between those who ate olive oil and those who ate butter. No difference at all. But yet they lumped them all together and included butter in their analysis. So to me, right away, instead of saying what is statistically true, they kind of defaulted to their bias. Now, that's my assumption of what they did. I can't think of any other explanation why they would have included butter there. But that's pretty troubling about the authors and about the study. But also when you look at it, the difference for dairy and for mayonnaise, it was a 5 to a 7% difference. All right, so we're talking about an observational trial with healthy user bias, with food frequency questionnaires, and a 5 to 7% difference is minuscule and likely completely insignificant on a clinical basis. And that's again part of the problem because now a lot of the headlines would say if you can replace butter or dairy with olive oil, you reduce your risk of heart disease. Well, the study didn't look at that either. There was no replacement, there was no action or intervention. It was just an observational trial, so it doesn't say that either. And again, I talk so much about it, but I think we have to keep talking about it when studies like this are being published and promoted. What the truth is and what the science is doesn't match what the hype is. So what can we conclude? Olive oil has no evidence that is dangerous or harmful, and certainly can be part of a healthy diet and should be added. In this study, there was no difference between those who ate butter and those who ate olive oil. And there's a minuscule, likely clinically insignificant difference that was observed in this observational trial between other types of fats and olive oil. So in the end, I'm still using olive oil. I'm still putting it on my salads. I'm still putting it in my roasted and steamed veggies, but I'm doing the same for butter. I'm still using dairy fat. This trial does nothing to dissuade me from that. And hopefully this analysis will help you understand it as well. All right, so click subscribe below to get all of our YouTube updates, and go ahead and go to dietdoctor.com for the full article, and you can see all our other programs. You can see our continuing medical education course that either if you're a clinician you can take or certainly tell your clinician about, and all the programs we have and all the membership benefits at dietdoctor.com. All right, have a great, healthy day, everybody. See you next time.